It's the James Degale Caleb Truax rematch on Saturday. Caleb Truax is apparently a massive underdog. Not as big an underdog as he was for the first fight, but still a significant underdog as far as I'm aware. This is what people are telling me, and therefore a lot of money is going in on Caleb Truax because people are seeing value there. He didn't just win the first fight against James Degale, he beat James Degale up. There was a moment or two in that fight where it crossed your mind that James Degale could actually get stopped here. So going into the rematch, there's a lot of people who believe they're going to make some nice money because they think Truax is going to do the same again. The fight is in the USA this time. It's not in the UK. You would think that favors Truax since he's based in the USA in terms of officiating and in terms of just feeling comfortable, being in the time zone that he's used to, so on and so forth. Familiar surroundings. And I can understand all those arguments. And I would not at all be surprised if Caleb Truax won the rematch because he won the first fight and he did it on hostile territory. But I'm going to pick James Degale to win this rematch. James Degale knows it's a crossroads fight for him. He knows it's the last chance saloon, and if he messes up here, it's over. I do believe that he genuinely underestimated Caleb Truax first time around. He was calling it an easy fight. I mean, James Degale has a habit of underestimating people. He has a habit of seeing himself as better than he actually is and seeing his opponent as far less dangerous than they actually are. So perhaps he'll do the same thing again in the Truax rematch, although I doubt it. I think if he gets beat, he just gets beat legit. It wasn't to do with underestimating Truax or anything like that. But I've looked at the kind of shape that Degale's in for this rematch. He looks in better shape than he was for the first fight. He's brought in Paulie Malignaggi. He's trying to change up things and what have you and tweak his setup. So I expect to see a sharper Degale, a more authoritative Degale, a more serious Degale. And even if he is past his best, there's a lot of people saying Degale's past his best, Degale's washed up. He might be. I don't know. In fact, I've been saying that he probably is. I've been saying for a while that I think Degale has peaked a long time ago and that he's now on the decline. But I said the same thing about George Groves, and I was wrong about Groves. I thought Groves was over the hill. I thought Groves was past his best. I mean, maybe over the hill is a bit strong, but I certainly felt that Groves had already peaked and he was on the way down. But his last two performances against Jamie Cox and Eubank Jr. have changed my mind. And now I think he's actually not too far removed from his prime, George Groves. You know, in fact, he might be peaking. Maybe not his athletic prime, but in terms of having it all together, in terms of the mindset, technical ability, strategy, being relaxed, fitness, etc., etc., etc. Groves might be in his prime right now. Even if he's not in his athletic prime, he might be in his technical prime and in his, you know what I'm talking about. So Groves proved me wrong there. He has still got plenty left. Degale, will he prove me wrong? Well, Degale has had a lot more tough fights than Groves. They've had a similar amount of fights, I think, but Degale's taken a lot more punishment in fights than Groves has. That's what I will say. See, the thing about Degale is that even though he's a bit slicker than Groves, he doesn't have the punching power Groves has. See, Groves can keep a lot of fighters honest. He can keep a lot of fighters off of him because of that punching power. Whereas with Degale, you know, guys test the waters early on and they realize, this guy don't really hit that hard. Then they're swarming all over him. So Degale tends to struggle with pressure fighters, guys who just swarm him. I mean, even Lucian Bute, who's not normally a pressure fighter, he applied a lot of pressure on Degale, particularly in the second half of the fight. You know, early on, he weren't sure because Bute's been knocked out and his chin's been vulnerable. But after he took a couple shots from Degale, he was like, you have no power here. You know, it was like some Lord of the Rings shit. You have no power here. And then he started attacking and he gave Degale a lot of problems. That fight, I can't remember how that fight was scored now. Degale against Bute, but that was a tough fight for Degale. So yeah, Degale's an okay puncher, but nothing special. Certainly nowhere near a Groves level puncher. So guys will swarm him, just like Truax did just like Badu Jack did, just like, you know, so many other fighters have. And that's what Truax will be looking to do here in this rematch, is swarm Degale. But I just feel like Degale's going to be more on it. And another thing as well is Degale's injuries. Not just the fact he's been in tough fights and taken a lot of headshots, also the injuries he keeps on having. Groin injury, arm injury, shoulder injury, all kinds of injuries. You really have to wonder with Degale. So, I don't know, we'll see. But I'm picking Degale to win because I just think he's going to be very, very on it. I don't even necessarily think it's going to be an easy fight for Degale. It could be very, very tough, but I think he'll scrape through. So I'm picking James Degale to win the fight. I want to say on points, but let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's Hatman, I'm out.